One of the best things about owning the original Game Boy back in the day was finally getting games that we had been playing in the arcade and on the NES for years on a small portable handheld. It would be really hard to express these days just how amazing that was back then, but let's just say it wasn't too far off from being a religious experience to any 10-year-old that got a Game Boy. I was lucky enough as a kid to get one, and one of the first games I immediately looked for was Contra, which was probably one of my favorite games on the Nintendo at the time. Thankfully, Konami, publishing under the Ultra Games label, put out Operation C for the Game Boy back in 1991, and it ended up being just about everything I could have hoped for in a portable Contra game. Operation C is shockingly close to the Contra you know and love, just on a smaller scale. It's nothing more than your standard run-and-gun game that Contra perfected on the NES. You take control of Contra veteran Bill Riser, and it's up to you to take out the alien menace that's come to Earth to wipe out humanity. To do so, all you'll need to do is run to the right and shoot every alien that appears on the screen. You'll also need to blast through 3 side-scrolling and 2 overhead levels filled with enemy aliens and their crazy weaponry to finally make it to the last boss and save Earth from its horrific fate. To help combat the waves of aliens coming at you, you'll get your standard assortment of Contra weapon upgrades like the spread shot and the fire gun. You can even upgrade the spread gun in this game to make it more overpowered than it already was. Operation C also adds the totally new homing gun weapon that makes short work of just about anything on the screen. So grab your favorite gun and start jamming on the fire button, and you should start making progress in no time. Beyond that, there's really not much else to mention gameplay-wise. This is Contra after all. You should know the drill at this point. Operation C is obviously based off the NES game Super C, and does a great job of bringing it to the small screen of the Game Boy. Though unfortunately in its trip over, the game got scaled back a bit from its bigger brother. You only get a few weapons to pick up in the Game Boy version, as opposed to double the amount in Super C. Also, the 10 or so levels of Super C has now been pushed down to a minuscule 5 on the Game Boy, making for yet another Game Boy game that can be played through in about half an hour. Though the biggest thing that gets nerfed in Operation C is the difficulty. Contra games have always been insanely hard, but Operation C bucks that trend entirely with a game you can play through with almost no real challenge. Sure, you'll die here and there, and the 3 continues might make you start over once or twice, but it never feels like the game's putting up much of a fight. There's barely ever more than a few enemies on the screen at a time, and the bullets seem to move at the pace of a lazily thrown softball. Even the bosses, which have been ballbusters since the original Contra, are all pushovers in Operation C, and the aforementioned new homing gun is really the only gun in the game you'll need, since it can take out just about everything on screen with little effort. It makes the entire game feel limp, coming off more as baby's first Contra rather than a full-blown Contra game. But even with being scaled back quite a bit, Operation C still does an amazing job of translating the Contra experience onto the Game Boy screen without too much sacrificed. And for us kids that bought it back in the day wanting nothing more than a playable Contra on the go, this was as close to perfect as we were going to get. And even with the pared back difficulty and length, I still played through it what must have been dozens of times as a kid, and I still had fun playing it for this review. Operation C may not be the most hardcore Contra game ever, but if you're looking for Contra on the go, I'd give it a strong recommendation. It's really fun while it lasts, and taking out Red Falcon and his army of goons will never get old as far as I'm concerned, no matter what size screen you play it on.